In this video, we're going to start the KutaSoftware Infinite Algebra 1 free worksheet scatter plots. Our instructions in this first section are to state if there appears to be a positive correlation, negative correlation, or no correlation. When there is a correlation, identify the relationship as linear, quadratic, or exponential. So let's look at number 1. Now you can think of a correlation as, do the points on the scatter plot have a trend? And we're to identify if the correlation is linear, quadratic, exponential, positive, or negative. However, let's first look to see if there's a correlation at all. A linear correlation, there will be a line where the points seem to scatter around, either positive, going up as we increase in the x direction, or negative, going down as we increase in the x direction. And the points do not seem to follow a line, so let's check for quadratic. They do not seem to follow quadratic parabola, and then exponential. They do not seem to follow an exponential because exponential is as x values get larger, the y values slowly reach 0, or in the case of a positive exponential, the values start from a limit of 0 and increase exponentially. However, in number 1, there does not appear to be any correlation, so for number 1, we have no correlation. In number 2, you can see that the points are trending in a negative direction, so that will be a negative correlation. And we can draw a line that the points follow. Therefore, it's linear. So a negative linear correlation is what we have in number 2. Whereas in number 1, there was no correlation and the points seemed to be placed randomly on the scatter plot. Let's go on to number 3. In number 3, the points tend to cluster, and we can trace a parabola that the points essentially follow. Therefore, this is a quadratic. So it's a quadratic correlation where that correlation is positive. Because as we increase in the x direction, we are also increasing in the y direction. And then lastly, in number 4, you can see that the points have a negative trend, so as x increases, y decreases, and it looks as though the limit is 0, so those points are slowly approaching 0. Therefore, this is a negative correlation, and it's exponential. The y values start as some really high number, and then approach 0 in a relatively short span. So let's continue on to number 5 and 6. And number 5 and 6, we're still going to state if there appears to be positive or negative correlation or no correlation at all. And then when there is correlation, we're going to identify if it's linear, quadratic, or exponential. However, now we're also going to need to construct that scatter plot. So graphing the points in number 5, when x is 1,000, which is here, y is going to be 1,300, which falls approximately here. When x is 2,000, y is 1,500. When x is 3,000, y is 2,000. So finding 3,000 in the x and 2,000 in the y. When x is 3,000, y is 2,000 again. So there's 2 points placed here in the same location. And then when x is 4,000, y is 2,400. When x is 5,000, y is 2,500. When x is 7,000, y is 3,600. And then we also have when x is 7,000, y is 3,700. So directly above our previous point. And then when x is 9,000, y is 4,200. So finding 9,000 in the x and 4,200 in the y. And then when x is 10,000, y is 5,200. So our points tend to go up for our y values as we go to the right in the x direction. Therefore, it's going to be a positive correlation for number 5. And the type of correlation is linear because the points tend to have the same change in y over change in x as we move across the course of the coordinate system. So this is going to be linear. So think of linear as drawing a line where the points tend to cluster or group along that line. And then lastly in this video, we'll go over number 6. In number 6, we'll plot x of 140 and y of 500. So finding 140, we're counting by 100ths. So 140 falls between 100 and 200, and then y is 500. So our first point falls here. Our second point is at 150 1,000. So a little to the right of that and all the way up is 150, 1,000. Then we have 170 and 300, which is still between 100 and 200. However, now we're at 300 in the y. And then 180, 100. And then 270, 200. So going to 270 in the x, which falls about here, and then 200 in the y. 280, 900. 450, 500. So directly in between 400 and 500 in the x, and then going up to 500 in the y. 450, 500 again. So we're plotting a point on top of that point we previously plotted. And then 770, 400, so approximately here in the x and up to 400 in the y. And then lastly 910, 600. So 910 is a little to the right of that x value of 900, and then we're going to go up to 600. So that's our plotted points in number 6, and you can see that they appear to be randomly placed in this scatter plot. Therefore, there's no correlation in number 6. We cannot find a linear line that they tend to cluster around, a quadratic parabola, or an exponential function that they tend to follow. Therefore, in number 6, there's no correlation. Now, in the next video, I'm going to complete number 7 and 8, where we're going to be finding the slope-intercept form and the line of best fit. So continue on if you want to learn about the line of best fit. However, before you move on, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel.